Welcome back to the Mental Playbook with Christine Dalgity, Season 2. This season, we are expanding the conversation, hearing from mental health experts, professionals from different industries, and people in the sports world about how they take care of their minds, handle challenges, and build the mindset to thrive both on the job and in life. So, grab a coffee, get comfy, tune in, get inspired, and let's dive into some fascinating conversations. Remember, your mind is super powerful, and with the right tools and knowledge, you can master your mental playbook. And while you're doing that, take care of you. Some of the topics we'll cover in this episode may include sensitive themes such as abuse or trauma. If these subjects might be triggering, please take care and consider whether this episode is right for you at this moment. If you want to better understand these experiences and how they show up in life, we encourage you to keep listening. That was all in one day. So that day I was done. That was and then I worked till 7 and I had to go to a thing for my brother, and I got home after 9. And so I, that night was I could not just go to bed. I needed to do that hour. That I didn't do an hour. I think I did 40 minutes, but I've AirPods in, eyes closed, sitting in this chair. So yeah, it's more of that. And I don't want people to think that I hear these traumas and I'm carrying them, because I'm not. I do my thing to process them, but I'm also human. So if I'm hearing all of these, all of these horrible things, and every one of the things that day was children. So, it's exhausting and it can impact me, but I do all my self-care tools and to maintain my own mental health and my peace.
So if I ask you the question, did you sign up for this?
No, I did not. I truly did not. Because I didn't think I was going to be a trauma specialist.
Okay.
So, so I truly did not sign up for this, but also I knew, being a therapist, I would hear hard things, obviously. And then when I decided that I was actually in my master's, and I took a trauma specialist course, and I was like, oh, this is kind of, and then I was really interested in how, because I like how the brain works and behaviors and stuff. So I was really interested in that stuff. And then it got me as I progressed, I think I was 2 years into my practice, and I was I really want to start focusing more on trauma too. And so, I knew doing trauma, I knew I would hear bad things. I knew that. But some of the stuff that I hear, I don't know if it's that I didn't know I would hear those things as a therapist.
Yeah.
I knew I would deal with parents losing children. I knew I would deal with a lot of sexual abuse and childhood traumas and stuff like that. But when you're sitting there with the person in front of you and they're, trying to keep it together while they're telling you, and sometimes they start trembling, and parents describing losing a child and stuff like that, and you're keeping it together. And I don't even... Sometimes when it's children, I get that lump in my throat. And then after the session, I just need to shut my door and just breathe because I am a mother and a grandmother and a human being. That can be harder, but I'm pretty good at not carrying it. When I have 4 of those in one day, that's a lot. Normally I have about 4 or 5 like that a week. Yeah. Right? So.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
And I can't blame Kyla for booking them all in 4 in one day, because she's just trying to get people in. Yeah. She doesn't know what they're coming in for.
No, exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
I'm going to ask one more question before we move on from this specific thing. You kind of mentioned it, but your clients, is it heavy? Is it hard work during those sessions?
For the client?
Yeah. When they're doing EMDR.
Yeah, EMDR. Yes and no. It's not, it's exhausting. Every client that leaves is tired at the end. And that's why I often say, try not to come before a work day right? Because I book 2.5 months out, so sometimes it's all they can get. Often people, if it's earlier in the day, or they'll take the day off. But I think it's tiring. It's exhausting for them for a couple of reasons. One is when it's eye movements, your eyes are going back and forth for an hour, basically.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be hard.
And sometimes I'm doing this, right? And sometimes I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this. And because I watch your eyes, and I watch, people don't know, but they flush, right? Facial expressions happen, the furrowed brow, and shoulders, I literally watch the shoulders go down, the furrowed brow as we're going through it. But I'm doing this, their eyes are moving, and sometimes just like bringing it up and holding it in their head too, like in their mind, the trauma. But I personally think it's mostly the eye movements that make someone really tired too.
Okay. All right.
Float back time, no. Float back, there's no eye movements. They're bringing up every trauma that comes up with that associative network.
Yeah.
And so even though they may say, when I was 14 in the truck with my uncle, they're picturing it.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. But then you kind of mentioned you go back to the happy place, right? Like
we go back to the calm place,
if you don't like complete it, or if the hour's up kind of thing. And
yeah. Grounding in trauma therapy is probably one of the most important things. They have to have grounding tools, right? And even when one of my clients for WSIB needed a diagnosis, and I can't diagnose, but they were having a difficult time. So my mentor, who's a psychologist, and he doesn't normally do this for me, if it's not a client, but he took all of my notes, and he took, I talked to him and everything, and then he met online with the two of us.
Okay.
And he said to the client right away, and just to go through the DSM-5 to make a diagnosis of PTSD, he said to the client right away, has Christine worked with you on grounding techniques? Are you able to ground as we go through this if you feel yourself going? So I was like, oh, and then she's like, oh yes, we've done a lot of them, right? And so I was like, that's cool. Like, it's funny because I've been doing this for so long, but I still have that not insecurity, but like when I hear someone who, like Kevin, he's my mentor, right? And when he asks, and I've done it, and I'm like, oh, I did it, right? 100%. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. I actually know what I'm doing. And it's like, yep. So yeah, we do. Yeah, they're exhausted, but we do it. CBT, I find clients more exhausted, like that client sleeping for 4 hours after, because it's very emotional.
What if you don't ground the person?
Then the trauma that can actually be very harmful and dangerous. So that grounding is nervous system relaxation, right? And so if you're not bringing your nervous system down, it's just, and so they're leaving a session. That happened to me actually. And I never went back to that therapist. And this was when I was still working in the school system, and it was after Ryan's dad died, and I went to see her. And even though I'm a therapist, I have a hard time. I'm more private in that way, right? And so it took a bit for me to get it out, and then I got it out, and I was actually crying, and I could feel the trauma response. And she went, all right, time's up, so I'll see. And I said, no. And she said, she did not ground me. She did not regroup. She abruptly ended the session at 10:02. Yes, we were supposed to end at 10:02. If I see a client like that, I go right to the hour. Mm-hmm. Like, I make sure that their nervous system has settled a bit. And it was in Carleton Place, which is about, it doesn't take me 10 minutes, but I'll say 10 minutes because that's what it takes most people. And when I pulled in my driveway, I did not remember if I stopped at a stop sign, a red light. I barely remember the drive home because my nervous system was still activated. So I was in fight or flight, right? And I didn't talk about that with the stress response, but fight or flight, the prefrontal cortex shuts off. You're just reacting. So that's why you need to use those techniques to lower the nervous system. Yeah. Okay. One of my little guys, when I was doing EMDR, he's 10, and I think I might have mentioned it before in a podcast, I can't remember, but his head started going back, and when I was doing the buzzers, and I said to after he's like, "Oh, something happened. Like my head was going back and my legs felt like heavy, like kind of tingly." And I said, "Dude, your nervous system was relaxing." And he had been sexually assaulted,
God.
and by an older boy. And when I told his mom when we came out, he said I could tell his mom, and she started to cry.
No.
And that was the first time his nervous system had been relaxed in like 3 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't cry.
I have a son, so like
I know. You can cry if you want. But it was just so,
Yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. Yeah, so we've heard often that you've had to deal with a lot. Deal is not the right word. If you wanted to share your experience.
My experience with trauma.
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay. Not yikes. I'm not going to melt down or anything like that. Yeah. So I think one of the most, and if I look away at stuff because I have a hard time looking at you when I talk about it.
That's fair.
That's just my mechanism. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I've experienced a lot of I've experienced a lot of traumas in my life, and I've talked about narcissistic, abusive relationship and infidelities, and loss, and that kind of thing. And I think that those have helped me as a trauma therapist too, because I see that stuff, like in the client, like I can. Not counter-transference, which is like me feeling what the client's feeling,
Yeah.
or like bringing my own experience into it, but just an understanding that they have in different things. But then in 2024, I experienced like a mental crisis. So I won't go into, just out of respect for my father and my family, but I'll explain some. I just won't go into graphic details. But so my father, who my hero, he was my everything. Obviously, so was my son and my grandkids. But
Yeah.
he was my center, and even at 52, always went to him for everything. Not okay. I would run things past him, right? I could make my own decisions. I would run things past him because we were a lot of like, in the sense that like we were both very intellectual and that kind of thing. And he always would give me advice, but then sometimes I'd be like, no. But he'd always give me advice and say, but you do what you're going to do, right? Like you do what you want. You never just do anything irrationally and stuff. And so now that's something that I really miss, not being able to talk to him about that. But he became ill pretty suddenly. He always had problems breathing. He smoked for like 70 years, even though he was 82 when this happened. Even though he told us that he hadn't smoked in 20 years, we always caught him. Or you could smell it in the house or something, or there'd be ashes outside the front door, and he'd be like, "Oh, that John." Well, John hadn't smoked for 7 years, so we like a COPD type thing. But he wouldn't go to the doctor very often. And anyway, long story. So some stuff happened with medication. His doctor made a decision with the medication that didn't turn out to be the right decision, and diabetes medication, and his blood sugar spiked to almost like we thought he was having a stroke, and he refused to go to the hospital because he said, "I'll never come out if I go in." And so that was March 16th of 2023, and that started 9 months of my sister and I taking care of him and him rapidly losing weight. I honestly think he had lung cancer, but he wouldn't go get it checked, and his doctor didn't come to the house to check on him. It was phone calls with him, and he always made it sound like everything was fine. Even though we said, "You have to be honest." I am being honest. You just told her that you were walking around the house and you can't leave bed, right? That generation. But yeah, so he was bedridden, and my sister and I were each running our own businesses and taking care of him. And so between the two of us, we spent probably 6 to 7 hours a day with him. He could get out of bed in the sense that he could walk to the washroom, but he had lost so much weight. He looked like a skeleton with clothes on. And anyway, so that was traumatic as well. Like, this man who was my hero and this big force was this, like, I think he might have weighed 100 pounds when he died. So we had an incident on Labor Day weekend, and I was with him, and I made him scrambled eggs, and he loved my scrambled eggs. And so he was eating them, and all of a sudden I saw something kind of come over him. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And then he pushed the eggs away, and then he blamed my eggs, and he never ate them again. But that's what he always did. He was the most stubborn man. I get it, honestly, but holy cow. Anyway, so he wouldn't go to the hospital. We stayed overnight with him and everything. They thought it was a cardiac event. I think it was a mini stroke because of just the way he was acting. A friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, from childhood and everything, he's a nurse, and he came to check on him for me because Dad wouldn't go to the hospital. That's when we got him oxygen, because within 4 minutes of me wanting to get him to the washroom, him telling me he's fine and I could go. I think it was because he wasn't feeling well. I was in the driveway. I called my sister. I said, "He's kind of kicking me out. I'm coming back, but I'm just saying I'm going to the grocery store." 4 minutes, because she lived around the corner. I literally just got across town, and she called me and said, "Can you come back? Dad's on the floor." So he fell. And so we got him up, but he couldn't breathe. And the look on his face, gasping for breath, was like the worst thing at that point, it was the worst thing I'd seen. And so that's traumatic too, right? And feeling helpless. So we got him oxygen, much to his, I don't know, that generation. He thought it was weakness. No, it's oxygen. You have to breathe. And then when they came and they gave the oxygen, he's sitting there and he goes, "Oh, this stuff works." Really? Anyway, so fast forward, we saw him declining around Christmas time. It was Christmas time, so everyone was going to come see him, but like, Ryan and Jody went to see him for an hour and a half or so on the Saturday, and Danica got home from school that weekend and she went to see him, and Jess, and on Christmas morning I went to Ryan and Jody's, and my brother and my two brothers, my sister and my nieces spent Christmas morning at his house, and I went later in the day, and then my cousin Jamie, who hadn't seen him in a little bit, came, and Jamie and Scott was there as well. Jamie and Scott, my uncle's kids, they're like my brothers. My dad the week before, my dad said, I always felt like I had 6 kids, not 4, like Jamie and Scott. So everybody was there, and I was on Boxing Day. I was there for the afternoon. Got him his lunch and everything. He was really down. We were doing all those scratch tickets that he got for Christmas because nobody knew what to get him. And I was texting my sister saying something's off. And she said, "Well, maybe we're going into the end, Chris. I don't know." And like, he's still talking to me and everything. So weak. We had to sit him up. He couldn't sit up. I was there from like noon to about 3:10 is when I left. One thing with the trauma, you remember time and everything. 3:10 I left, and I just had this overwhelming feeling come over me. And I turned around to say "I love you" to him. And my dad wasn't somebody to say "I love you." He would, but we always knew it, right? That generation. Friday night, I said, "I'll see you in the morning." And he was feeling blah. And he said to me, so this was Tuesday, right? But Friday night before that, he said, "If I'm still here." And I turned and I said, "Pardon me?" And he said, "If we're still here, you never know." And I said, "Well, if that's how you're going to talk, I'm going to make sure you know I love you." I said it then, but I turned and I didn't say it. And I said, "I'll be back at dinner." He only ate 2 shortbread cookies for lunch. And I said, "I'll be back at dinner and you're going to eat your mashed potatoes and your turkey," like that. And he just went, "Mm-hmm." And I just had this feeling And I went through this whole process of I should have stayed. I should have said I love you, and I should have stayed. And I blamed myself for that for so long. And then I came home, and I was heading back 2 hours later, 10 after 3, about 2.5 hours later, about 10 to 6, to get him his dinner. And my phone rang in the car, and I was like less than a minute away. And it was my brother. And he was like, you need to get here now. And I was like, is he gone? And my brother never went at that time, because he would go like in between so that someone was there, right? And he was sitting at home, and his partner said, oh, look over your shoulder, and a cardinal was sitting in the window. And he said, I need to go check on Dad.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so he went, and I said, is he gone? He said, I don't know. You need to come. And then he's like, being the big brother, drive safe, but get here. And so I said, I'm like 40 seconds away. And so I parked the car and I ran in the house. And without going into graphic details, my dad had fallen without his oxygen. And he died trying to get up, right? And so the thoughts of what he went through in that time stuck in my brain, because it brought me right back to when he fell in September and he couldn't breathe, and the fear and everything in his face when he couldn't breathe. And so I dove across the bed. He was beside the bed, and my brother was holding on to him, and I was trying to check for a pulse, and I was yelling at him to wake up and everything, and trying to check for a pulse. And there was none, but he was still kind of warm, so it hadn't been that long. And then I called 911. John had called my sister. I called 911. We said no sirens or anything, but there were sirens. And because Dad wouldn't want that, because he was so private. Anyway, we had to, I called my brother Steve, and he came, and the paramedics, there was some stuff with that. My dad had a DNR, but we couldn't find it. And one paramedic was saying, no, the family's been through enough, we're not. The other saying, we need permission. Like, it was this bad, and they were actually like arguing and stuff about it. And I'm looking at my sister going, what is happening right now? Meanwhile, my sister's now holding my father, because the position he was in, he wasn't lying down. And so, it was just this, like, it was traumatic in itself, because we're just sitting there with our father the way he was. And I couldn't breathe, and I kept saying, my chest hurts, like I felt like I was having a heart attack. I was having a panic attack, and just different things. My dad had dentures. They were on the bed. So knowing that he threw them, he probably couldn't breathe, right? The water glass that I gave him was on the floor. So the strut, and just seeing that. And then if that wasn't bad enough, the paramedics went to put him down. And when they went to do it, to them, it was, I don't know, a body. To me, it was my dad. And they just, the way they put him down, and his leg was, and I was yelling at them, you're hurting him.
No.
They weren't hurting him. But, and then my brother was like, let my sister leave the room, but there was no way I was going to. I wasn't leaving him. And the way they put him down, I'm not going to describe what happened, because it's what nightmares are made of. And the way they put him down, what happened with his head and his face, I didn't sleep for a long time. Anyway, then the police had to come, because we found him. And so they asked me, I had to go through the whole thing again. My brother had to go through the whole thing again. And then we're sitting on the floor beside my dad, lying there for like a couple hours. And we covered him up. I covered him up with he had a comforter, and he said that was his security blanket. Every time we covered him up, he goes, I can't even watch the baseball game because I fall asleep. Because Blue Jays baseball was my thing with my dad too, and my sister. And anyway, so the paramedic said, you have a blanket. My brother went to get one, and I said, no, he needs a security blanket. So I put it over him. But we're sitting there, and then the coroner called, and I had to go over the whole thing again with the coroner. And so all of that in itself, like my brain wasn't processing, my body was reacting in ways. Had to call my son to tell him, had to call, my cousins, not just me, like we all did.
Yeah.
Come home. I had a client in crisis. They're texting me stuff. And I had to say stop, right? Like obviously in a professional way, and most clients don't text me, but it was, and then people coming and everything. So, and then we had the funeral 3 days later. I did the eulogy. My watch is like going off because my heart rate, like it was that time period. And then the next day I had to close my office that I had opened in another town and move everything back after the day after the funeral. The next day was New Year's Eve, and that client in crisis contacted me having attempted suicide, and I had to get them to the hospital and do all of that. So that week, which then triggered the next 4 months, and I don't remember the next 4 months.
Oh, wow.
I remember parts of the next 4 months. I didn't tell anybody. The only time I felt like myself was when I was in the therapy room. And I still remember my therapy sessions with clients, but I don't remember my day to day. And what most people don't know, and I don't know how I did it, I did not sleep more than 1 to 2 hours a night for 4 months. Because every time I shut my eyes, I saw what the paramedics did, or I saw my dad struggling. And that still haunts me, but I'm processed it more. But I could not sleep until my body just made me fall asleep. And it was usually around 4 or 5 a.m. and I was up at 6 to go to work. So, and I would do things, but there was no joy. There was no, and I remember one time I was on my treadmill. It was about 3 weeks after, and I have asthma, and I didn't use my inhaler, and I couldn't breathe. And I've never experienced this before in my life. I got off the treadmill. I had AirPods in, and I got off the treadmill. I was then having because then my dad, like it was just, and I was picturing him struggling to breathe, and the fear. I had to take my AirPods out because they were like restricting. I had to take my shoes off. I was stripping my clothes off. Like I couldn't breathe, and it was making it worse until I got my inhaler. I've never experienced that before. And it was just all of the trauma things. I went into my dad's house because then we had to clean it out and everything. And I didn't help my sister do that. Like I wish I could have, but I couldn't even. She went to hand me the cup. Yeah. Because it was my Yeti that I'd given him for his water and stuff. And all I saw, like as it's in front of me, was it sitting on the ground, and I started having a panic. I never had I've had panic attacks, but not, I started having a panic attack, and I was like, no, it was just, and she's like, it's okay. And I was like running out of the house. I went into the house. The first time I went back in the house was with the realtor because we had to get it appraised and everything. And so thankfully I knew her. But I was like, I just need a sec, like just walking into the house. I gave my dad his pills for lunch and dinner, and I'd given them that day for dinner. I opened up his dresser to get, and the pill thing was there with the 2 I would have given him for dinner, and I had a panic attack. Like it was nothing I've ever experienced before. And the hypervigilance to safety, to the point, and I've never said this to anyone, and here I am saying it here, where I was driving to the end of my street, and there's a stop sign, and there was a car coming up like a dirt road that comes up, and he was going really fast. And I was like, I could pull out and just say I didn't see him. Right? Obviously, I wouldn't be saying anything, right? But that was the thought that came in my head. And it was just a split. We call those passive ideations. But I was so exhausted. I lost one of the most important people in my life. I didn't say I love you. I didn't stay. All of those things. And the guilt and the shame that I talk about that people have, right? I felt all of those. Even though I know that my brother was actually the one who came upon it and found him. I was shortly after, but it just feels so isolating. I had clients coming in losing their fathers traumatically, and I had to just like whoop and do that, which I did. But I was like, I'm so done. I'm so done. And because I am who I am, my best friends who are my tribe didn't know what I was going through. My family, I mean, they knew I was struggling. Yeah. But they didn't know. My staff didn't know. Obviously, they knew I wasn't who I normally am. But they, and so I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And when I saw that car, and then it was in April, and I was like, what am I doing? And I reached out to a therapist, and my son said, Mom, I can't see you like this anymore. He didn't even know a quarter of it. Because if I wasn't telling my best friends, I wasn't telling him. And yeah, and I got some help. And I had done a video that I saw a Snoopy quote, Snoopy and Charlie Brown. And Charlie Brown said, Snoopy, we only live once. And Snoopy said, you're wrong, Charlie Brown. We only die once. We have to live every day. And I was like, my dad doesn't get to live. My mom, that was different. My mom, we were all around her and we were prepared for it. And the funny thing is with my dad, every single day, I did the morning routine and my sister did lunch, and then we alternated dinners depending on when our hours were at work. And every single morning on my way to his house, I went over what I would do if I find him. And I would always have my phone on me just in case I needed to call. But I always pictured coming in and finding him in bed, passed away in his sleep or something, not suffering like he did. And the thought of him suffering is still something that, I'll just be sitting here and all of a sudden it just comes over me. And I am so much better than I was, but night and day. But it's still that trauma, it was so stuck in me. Nothing else could come in my head. And just the avoidance, don't sleep, because if you sleep, you're going to dream about it. Every time I'd close my eyes, that's all I would see. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
You can ask me anything.
Why, for a therapist, did it take, why did you, I'm trying to say this super nicely.
You can say it anyway. I will not be offended.
Yeah, because I'm I don't know how to do this.
Why didn't I? Yeah.
But, seek a therapist sooner. What made it,
Yeah.
I think this is huge because people take a while to seek therapy.
Yeah.
But it's why?
Yeah, for a number of reasons. The first reason is, even though I'm a therapist, I truly believe that you have to be ready for therapy to come. And I wasn't ready yet. I was I was stuck in this perpetual cycle. So I couldn't even process to see a therapist at first. Then I was like, I need to try to process this myself, and then I'll be ready to see someone. It was honestly my son that as soon as he said, because I will do anything, if I knew it was impacting him. But also there's a stigma that because I'm a trauma therapist, I should know how to fix it myself. And I think it's probably more a stigma I put on myself
Yeah.
too, and most therapists do. But it's this thing that, okay, like I literally treat trauma.
Yeah.
I've experienced trauma in my life. I know what to do. My brain was rewired. I didn't know what to do. And I've had never experienced a trauma like that. Right? And so it took me a long time to just kind of move through it. And, 4 months, it doesn't mean I'm fully through it.
No, yeah.
Right? But I'm much more than I was. But yeah, it just takes those three things, right? It's like, A, you're so stuck, you don't even know what's up from up, down. Like, you're literally, this is something that I didn't really know that clients go through, but you're literally like in a robotic state. A, I was so tired. I don't even know how, and maybe unethical that I treated clients, but they were all treated well, because that's, and I did talk to my mentor a few times in there, and I told him, I said, the only time I feel like myself and that my brain's functioning is when I'm being a therapist.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this, you're so stuck. You sleep for an hour, you wake up, you eat breakfast if you eat, and then you go to work and you do your thing and you come home and you sit here. And I would like read books. I'd watch these like shorts, videos, stuff like that just all night, because it was just, and I remember my brother coming in on the weekend and I'd be on the sofa and he's like, oh, you're on the couch again? Right. And like all weekend, I didn't talk to anyone. I lay on that couch. Sometimes I would do some paperwork for work and stuff, but it was just like watching videos and stuff that were just so stupid and cheesy and,
Yeah.
So you get stuck. It takes a while to process. And as a therapist, you think, especially your specialist, you think that you should be able to do it. Yeah. I did it.
You did it.
Yeah. The worst time of my life.
Yeah.
And obviously, I didn't go into I went into detail, but not
As detailed as
Yeah.
it could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you end your sessions with your clients
How would I end a session with a client?
that just told their story like that?
Let's go to our comp place.
Yeah. What's your comp place? If you want to share it. I know that sometimes grounding.
My comp place is, I kind of have a couple. My comp place, anything that has to do with water and fire are my comp places. So it depends. Like I mix mine up. So sometimes I just visualize myself sitting in my backyard with my fire table. Sometimes I visualize myself sitting at a lake. Sometimes it's the ocean. Sometimes it's, and I know I say to people, you don't want to have like that has bad memories. But my sister has now, she bought my childhood home. And so she has a pool, the pool we grew up with. And we always have Sister Sunday.
Yeah.
And which was created when my mom was sick. So sometimes just going to the pool with my sister and floating around and laughing, I visualize those things. So, but water and fire are my things, and I just go into it. And I mean, there's reasons why I do all the self-care that I do, right? And it's not just because I'm a therapist. It's because of things I've been through. But a lot of that having to sit here and stuff is my nervous system was not regulated for a really long time. And those 4 months is when I was really stuck. I did start to, like, then it was like sleeping for 3 hours, then it was sleeping for 4 hours. And it was probably like, honestly, I don't remember most of 2024. I don't remember most of the first 4 months, but it was probably August, September-ish before I started to feel like I was human again. Before I started to feel like myself. Like I felt like I was just going through the motions, or I was like this imposter. You know, that imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
I felt like I was just this, I don't know even how to describe it. But I still, I mean, obviously I still miss him every single day, and my mom too. But my mom's been 21 years, right? And I just had a different relationship with my dad and daddy's girl. Yeah, but it's, I was going to say something and I can't remember what it was. I don't know. See, trauma brain. And I didn't even have a hot flash when I just talked about that stuff.
Yeah. I was 100% noticed that, because I was just like, at one point I was like, interesting. She hasn't had it.
I
Usually,
haven't
like,
had,
there would have been
normally
had five.
emotion. Yeah, emotion.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I was preparing myself. I was doing a lot of grounding before the session today. And it's, you know what's really funny? Now that I've shared it, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I see this with so many clients, and I just experienced it, is people are going to think that's not that bad. Like that popped in my mind. People are going to think, okay, Christine, well, that's not that bad. You didn't start melting down. You didn't.
Yeah.
And that's what clients always say to me. And I'm like, okay, but what do other people know?
Yeah.
Right? You just described it in a way that was censored too. I mean, I was kind of detailed, but I wasn't detailed in what I actually saw.
Yeah.
You know, and I do that with clients, but that just popped in my head. You didn't have a hot flash. You didn't get emotional. I got emotional a couple times, but you didn't. So people are going to think, okay, it's not that bad. Okay, clients, I just felt it too. And it was that bad. And it was horrific. And what I saw was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And to a person that I held in higher than most people.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
At the beginning, I think you mentioned like why you wanted to share your experience. I don't.
Yeah. I want to share my experience because I think that a lot of times people think that, I mean, as therapists, we have education and expertise and that kind of thing. But I now have an experience that I can truly understand. I don't think we ever truly understand what someone else is going through, right? But an understanding of. But also, you know, it's that whole starfish story that people think that, and I know people think this because people have said this to me, you always have it all together. You always have, you know, and I want people to know that you can have it all together. You can be mentally healthy. I am mentally healthy. I was mentally healthy. You can be emotionally mature and go through something so horrific and traumatic that it completely changes your life, rewires your brain, and injures you mentally, right? And because of neuroplasticity in your brain, you can be treated for that and you can get through it, and it doesn't have to be forever, right? I always think of my dad, and I will dream about what happened, and I will be sitting here watching TV and it will pop in my head. I will, you know, feel a feeling and then I think about him, but it's not every day anymore. And it's, you know, and I'm living my life, and I want people to see that you can be mentally healthy. You can have it all together, and still experience an event in your life that sends you right, you know, off kilter. And so that if I can help one person who's feeling that way, the starfish story, then it was worth putting it out there. And also what really triggered it was the talking about Ulmark and how he was a professional and came out and said, you know what, like, stop it. You know, this can happen. And so it made me think, like, because I'm a professional, I don't want people to think I can't do this, but because I'm a professional, I should be able to say, you can do this.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And like little things like this, like now you can relate to some of your clients sharing.
For
also.
sure.
So then it's just like, it just makes the experience for clients a whole other, like, way better.
Absolutely.
It can make it way better, yeah.
Absolutely. And I actually say to them, you know, I get it. I always say, I don't understand your experience. I don't understand, but I have been through this, and I understand that how lost you feel. I understand those ideations that come in. I understand, and I say that's kind of like all the things that I experience that they're experiencing. And they're like, oh, it just makes it so easier because so many people don't understand. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And because depending on generation, society says, oh, suck it up. Mm-hmm. We've all experienced trauma. It's in the past.
Yep. Yeah, those are the questions.
Okay. Wow, that was a big one.
It is a very big one, but it's good.
All right. You make me get more and more personal every time. This was my idea. But yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Kind of intense for me today, but I kept it together. I hope you learned something about trauma. It is so complex. There's so much to it. If you have any questions at all, please drop us a comment or a DM, because there's no way in a podcast or, a time frame I can get through everything with trauma, because there's so many things. So please let us know if you have any questions, you want any clarification. And until I see you again, take care of you. That's it for today's episode of The Mental Playbook with Christine Dalgity. Remember, the work doesn't end because the episode does. Thank you so much for listening and for being part of these conversations. If you're enjoying the podcast, please rate and follow us on Spotify. It helps us grow and reach more people who might need this too. And don't forget, take care of you.